Topic for today's video is going to be all about species interactions, specifically interspecific interactions. Inter meaning between, and if it was intra, that would be within, but interactions. And we're really talking about, in this case, coevolution. We're talking about real, solid, evolutionarily based interactions that take place over longer periods of time. So you can see some cabbage white butterflies. I believe that's what they are in the back. And there's tons of them here. You have quite a few flowers as well. So let's talk about what coevolution is and what it is not as well. So with coevolution and with the interactions we're going to mention today, we are really talking about a basis in evolution, in evolving together. That's what coevolution is, right? So changing together, changes in DNA in a population, that's evolution, right? And these would be if plants, in this case, and butterflies would change together over time. Could talk about a coevolutionary arms race, for example, where if you had enough herbivory that the caterpillars would be eating the plants, then there'd be response from the plants that in the population, not in each individual. Remember, it's the population that changes. It's that they are more successful over time. Like if they were toxic to the butterfly, that would, more of those toxic plants would survive. And then we could see an adaptation in the population of butterflies that was always there, probably, that there's some that would be able to withstand that toxicity. And think about monarch butterflies eating milkweed, for example. That's a possibility. Well, that's a coevolutionary arms race, but it's much more complicated than that, and we're going to talk about, again, species interactions. So let's do that now. So in the way I outlined and portrayed that scenario, which is not entirely fair, it seems like cabbage whites and the plants that I really didn't name, I showed you some oxeye daisies, were in a parasitic relationship, a relationship where one species benefits and the other is harmed. And really to be labeled that way, we do need a coevolutionary basis. So we do need that these two species are tied together over time. First of all, cabbage white is a generalist and doesn't have a very strong host plants, although it does use plants in the mustard family, and there's a lot of them in that family, but they can use a variety of plants. And I'm not sure that this is an example of truly coevolution. But also, is that really accurate, where there's no benefit to the plant? Think about it. Butterflies are pollinators. They're helping that plant to reproduce, to have babies. There's a benefit. In fact, plants try to attract the adult butterflies. Again, butterflies can lay eggs and the caterpillars will eat them. That's herbivory, and that's not something the plant wants, of course. But where is that line drawn? What is the net overall gain or harm? That's what it really depends on. Is there a change in fitness because of that interaction? Is it coevolutionary as well? All of that goes into it. But again, parasitism, not typically, but is defined as one species is benefited and one is harmed. Just remember, it's much more complicated in real life. Two other types of interspecific relationships that we're going to talk about are mutualism, where one species benefits and the other also benefits, and commensalism. And, commensalism, there's a debate as to whether it even really is truly in existence. Commensalism is when one species benefits and the other has no effect on it whatsoever in terms of fitness. There have been studies to show that. there's a degree of accuracy with any study as well, and logically some people don't really think it has much merit. But anyway, the example typically was, in the old days anyway, barnacles on whales, that they really don't cause any effect on the whales, but they have a place to live. That was one. There's a few others. Mutualism is quite obvious, and you can talk about symbiosis, and that's just sharing the same life. It doesn't really have to be mutualistic, and that's what we've been talking about in this video anyway. Another thing, since I'm in a location like this, it's really edge habitat next to a grassland as it goes from a forest, and it's bisected by a trail. We could talk about the interspecific relationships that exist and allow a distribution of vegetative species, and we'll do a little bit of that right now. So, what are some ways that plants, for example, can influence the distribution of other plants through interspecific interactions? Well, here is a black walnut tree, and this could be an example, although I'm going to tell you why it's really not, most likely, an example of the idea of inhibition. Some plants, not black walnut from what I've just done some research on, some plants put out chemicals so that other plants are inhibited from growing next to them. Look, it would stop competition from resources, and competition is another type of interaction that we need to mention as well. We're both in a place of limited resources anyway. Both species will be impacted in a negative fashion. So allelopathy would be putting out these chemicals so that you can't grow next to me because I want it all. It's for me. A lot of gardeners have said that black walnut produces something called juglone that is allelopathic. But if you look at the actual research, it does not appear that to be true. It's more of a myth. So not the best example. However, there are many other plants that may do so and have been shown to actually do so. Another kind of interaction would be to facilitate, make it easier, right? Facilitate. Where if I'm growing here, I could help you out. I could put some nitrogen in the soil, like legumes do that. Put some nitrogen in the soil and help other plants that need that nitrogen to grow next to them. Not because they want to help, but that's what they do. Or just tolerance that you can grow here, I'm not really going to help you or harm you. Either way, all of these things together can impact what plants grow next to each other.